Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 115 of Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we're going to make an art doll just because I think they're fun to make and you can change them up so many different ways. And so what we're going to do first is we are going to use our rotary tool that we got to drill some holes for our doll. And when you open it up, it's going to come like this with these here, and these are all of your little parts to use for your drill or for your tool. And also it has the instructions. Make sure you read the instructions so that you know how to use your tool and you know how to use it safely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find what we need to drill our holes, which is going to be, there are a couple drill bits in here. You have a little wrench. These out of the way. There's a little wrench for you to tighten your tool, and then there is a very, very tiny drill bit, and then there is a little drill bit. So, and then you have all of these other parts and pieces in here, you know, for sanding and buffing and all different sorts of things. Now, the one thing that you need to know about this is these are called the collets. And I'm going to take the top off of here to show you all three of them at the same time. And if I'm calling them the wrong name, that's just what I call them. You know, I could be wrong, but and so this is what we have on a normal drill. You have like a chuck on it that you loosen it up, you put your drill bit in, and then you tighten it up. And that's how you use your drill. With your rotary tools, they have these collets, which these are 3 different sizes. They're small, medium, and large, which hold different tools. The small one holds this tiniest of drill bits. And see, that just fits in there. And then when you put it in your tool and tighten your tool down, it tightens up these little grooves, tightens them up really tight, and grabs a hold of your drill bit. We don't want the tiniest drill bit. We want the little drill bit. And that one fits in the middle collet. So, and now obviously it will go in the large collet, but it's very loose. So you don't want to, whenever you're using your tools, you want to find the collet that fits the best. Now this one here, one of these little sanding things, will not fit in that medium-sized collet, but it will fit in the large one. So that's the one you will use for this. So you do have to change these out when you change your tools. And so we're going to put this middle one back in here. And so you just screw this piece off and slide your collet in there. Now this is going to be the right size to grab my drill bit. And then we're just going to put this back on. And when it's pretty much there, then what you're going to do is you're going to hold this button down, because that stops the inside from moving as you tighten up your collet. So I'm going to put my drill bit in there, tighten it as far as I can by hand, and then just use my wrench and tighten it up. Don't over tighten it. So, and now that drill bit is in there nice and solid. I can't pull it out, and it is ready to use. Put these away so that I don't spill them. And plug in our drill. Okay, and then we're going to just take our solo cup and we're going to drill a hole right in the middle. And the thing with these is they're kind of big and, you know, a little bit heavy, whether they're the cordless or the not corded, or cordless or corded. So you have to kind of get used to how to hold them. I kind of hold it like in this silver area as best as I can, almost even like a pencil. But you have to be very careful because it wants to jump around, because this is a drill bit and it's got to really catch on here. So you have to be very careful. Put it on the lowest speed that it will go, because you don't need any real speed for this. So we're going to put it on number 1, and then let's see what this goes up to. It goes up to maximum. It goes up to 6 and then maximum. So we're going to put it on 1. And then the on-off switch is here on the bottom. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to get a really good hold of it as best as I can so that it doesn't jump around. And then I'm going to kind of hold this at an angle so I have a good hold on it. So there we go. Now we have our hole in our cup, and I just took one of our skewers and broke it in half. And I'm gonna, whoops, I don't want the half. I want the half with the point on it. This hole is a little bit small, but the solo cup does stretch. With the other plastic cups, you'll need to kind of go up and down a little bit with your drill bit to make that hole a little bigger. But I'm just going to put this one in here. Just like this until I have just enough to kind of hold my head with a little bit maybe of a neck. Okay, now this is really tight, so that's good. If it's not tight, then what you would do is you would take your hot glue, put a little bead of glue right around where you want it to stop, let the hot glue dry, and then slide your cup right down to that point, and then that little bead of hot glue that's around there will stop it from going any further. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of our ping pong balls, and we'll drill a hole in this for our head. Now I like to drill a hole where the seam is, so that the seam is at the bottom and the top and both sides. That way it's not going to be in the middle of my face. So I'm also going to hold this steady on my table. Let me get this out of the way. Let's turn this on. And then just remember, go slow because it's a very smooth surface. Make sure you've got good hold on your drill before you start. And you're going slow so it gets a chance to actually start putting a hole in it. And then turn it off. Okay, so there we go. And now we have our head. Push that one up in there. All right, now I'm going to decide that I want my solo cup a little higher up. Probably about like that. So we have just a little bit of a neck space there. And then I'm going to decide what it is that I want to do. Now you could add another cup underneath, kind of like this, so it's a little bit bell-shaped. I like to do that with the smaller cups, to have two of them on there like that. And actually I'm going to use this white one. And that one is too loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some hot glue on there. Turn my hot glue gun on. And we'll get that put on there right where we need it to be. And what I'm going to do is take my head off because I need to put my ring of hot glue here and I can't go up over it. I need to be able to come back down onto it like this. So as soon as the hot glue gun gets done, we'll go ahead and do that. Now, I did paint my solo cup because I didn't want it to be red. And what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put a coat of pink on this while we're waiting for the hot glue to heat up. Because I don't want her to have just a white dress, and it'll be easier to paint it right now while we're waiting than to try and do it when it's all put together. And you can do this however you feel like doing it. You can put fabric on here. I think I'm going to try and put a little fabric skirt on her. And so I don't need to get really good down here at the bottom. And actually, this kind of the white is showing through a little bit here towards the top. And I think I'm kind of liking that. So I don't know that I'm going to do a second coat. I do need a little bit more pink to cover it up, but having the white kind of show through just gives it a little bit more dimension. So we could do that, or we could, put another color with it, put flowers on it. You could even stamp on it. Do whichever you would like to do. I'm going to use some of the boho ribbon that we made a few weeks ago when we did our fabric ribbon, because I really like that. wipe a little bit of this away. Get it on the top. And of course, you can take a lot more time with this than what I'm taking and get it exactly the way you want it. I'm just trying to fit it in the time frame of our video, so there we go. Now the one thing that I forgot to do, good thing that we had to wait for the hot glue to heat up, is we need to put her armholes on here before we actually put her together. So I am going to really quickly dry this up. Plug this one in. Because I almost forgot that part. Now be careful with your solo cups and your heat gun, because your heat gun can melt this plastic. So I'm just going to kind of keep it away a little bit, and then I'll have to let it sit for just a few minutes too. Okay, that looks pretty dry. I'm going to call it good right there before I melt my cup. Alrighty, and then I had a disc here. We're going to take one of our, this is just a cardboard disc, and I'm just going to drill a hole in the middle of it for our stand. Whoops, I want to put I have a notebook here. I'll put this notebook underneath so I don't go through. And then again, just get a good hold of it. Okay, and it just kind of went up and down a little bit so that my hole would be a little bigger and my skewer would fit better. I'm going to put my skewer in there, and then I'm going to come under here. I'm going to use my wire cutters here and cut that off. Hang on to it so it doesn't go flying. Okay, and then you're going to want to sand that off. That is the one thing I forgot to bring was sandpaper. Let's put this over here. Alright, so now we have our stand. And for my art doll, I don't want her arms exactly on the side. I like them just a little bit closer to the front. And right now there is no front or back, but so you just know you don't have to have them perfectly. You can have them perfectly on the side if you want to. I just like to have them a little closer together. And again, very carefully have a good hold on it and decide what I want the front to be. Okay, so I drilled the holes just below the last little, there's 3 little dips here, and I drilled the holes just below. So this is going to be the front of my doll because here are my arms. I definitely don't want this to be the front and her arms will be way back there. So this is the front of my doll. And now what I'm going to do, our hot glue should be hot. And I want this probably, let's see, the top of it maybe right about there. I want a little bit showing at the base. So I want the top of it probably right in this area. So what I'm going to do is just take my hot glue, turn my skewer, and let it sit out there like a bead of glue. And so now when that dries, that is going to hold my cup in place. So I'm going to put that there for right this second. And I'm not sticking it on there to glue it on there. I want this to be a little loose. I'm just putting it on there so that my cup doesn't go any farther down than that. My cup will now only go that far. Otherwise, it'll go all the way to the bottom. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to work on her arms. And so we're going to take some wire. You can do this two ways. You can put your wire all the way through from one side to the other, or you can put two separate arms. I like two separate arms. And so I'm going to cut this. It's probably about 5 or 6 inches long. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a curly Q on one end. You're not going to see this unless you have one of the see-through glasses. So you don't really have to worry about what it looks like. You just want to make sure that you have at least a couple inches of arm left over. So that's big enough. And I'm going to do another one just like it on the other arm. So if you do it this way, two separate arms, then your arms will move independently. If you do it where you want just one wire to go all the way through, you can go right through one side, right through to the other. But then the arms will move together. Okay. I just want them to be about the same length. It doesn't necessarily matter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this over like this, and just keep bending till it comes back towards the wire. And then I'm going to take this wire, stick it from the inside, come out, so that that little curly Q is on the inside. Now what that does is that curly Q holds our arm in shape, or in place, but it also just creates a joint so that this can move however I want it to. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm just going to bend it over a little bit. It's easier to get it started bending it over while you're outside the cup. And then just go ahead and put that through the hole. And then I just hold that against the side of the cup and then bend her arm down. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our arms. And yes, they are very long, but that's still okay. Now we're going to put this on here, and it's going to stop at our glue dot. There we go, it does. Okay, and then we are going to find our head, and I want a little bit of a neck, and the top of her head is right about here, so I'm going to break that right about there and see if that's going to be good. Whoops, pulled it out. Okay, so this is what we have. She has a little bit of a neck, and then we've got her body, and we've got her arms. Stick it in our stand. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make her arms. And in order to do that, I use my own homemade beads. And so I do 3/4 of an inch for her upper arm and 1/2 inch for her lower arm. And on our bead roller, I just use the smaller hole one. If you don't have a bead roller, it doesn't matter. Roll it around anything you have, a skewer or whatever. And just roll up your bead. And then I do a straight piece of paper, 3/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch. I don't do the, you can do the shaped beads. That's totally fine too. Because every little difference just gives you a little bit of uniqueness. And then you're going to glue it if you have glue, which I did really have here. What did I do with it? There it is. It's hiding over here under all of my cords. Just roll it up and put a little bit of glue here. And then I just go around a little bit till I know that it's holding fairly well. And then just slide it off your bead roller. Make sure that your ends are straight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover that with a little piece of fabric from our little boho fabric that we made the other day. And I'm going to put some glue on here. And it's okay if your fabric is a little bit long, a little bit longer than your bead. You don't want it too much longer. I'm just going to start rolling that and then put some more glue on there. And I'm going to overlap my fabric just a little bit. And I am pulling it tight so it doesn't have the little ruffles in it, because I want to make sure that it stays well on my bead, so I do want it tight. Just cut off what's left. Make sure that you've got glue under there. Okay, and so now we've got part of her arm. So we're just going to take this and we're going to slide it on to her arm. That was 3/4 of an inch. Then we're going to take one that's 1/2 inch. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our round nose pliers and make a loop. But the first thing that I have to do is cut off whatever extra wire that I have. I left probably about 1/2 inch right there. And I'm going to kind of just pull that out here tightly. And I still have too much wire. So I'm going to nip that off. And there we go. And I'm going to wind this around. I want it kind of tight. Now, don't pull it too tight, because you can just keep unwinding the curlicue that you made inside. All right, see, now we have a joint. Her arm can bend and move. And I got it a little bit tight because it's not as flowy. I like them to be very flowy, but it's still good. And then we're just going to do the other one. I already have these beads done too. So again, a 3/4 inch bead and a 1/2 inch bead. Okay, what I'm going to do before I cut the wire, I'm going to just turn the wire to a 90-degree angle. It will be easier to make your loop that way because it's holding the arm back out of the way. And I'm just going to curl this up till it's kind of tight. Like that. Okay. And so now she has a bendable arm over here too. Now I peeled off her paint here because, you know, I wasn't being real careful. So this is what we have so far. Now you can make her head, you know, look back or forward, however you want to, by just holding on to the base and just moving your ping pong ball. All right. So now what I want to do, well, let's put her head behind towards the front. I thought that I would put this little bit of a skirt on her dress. And I'm just going to do that with hot glue. And hopefully I have enough here to go all the way around. It's going to be right about here. I'm going to start in the front in case my fabric is a little bit too short and I have to add to it. There we go. And I kind of want to keep those little pleats in there. Okay, so here she is so far, and she does need a little bit more. I have a little piece here. I'll go ahead and okay, so it's not quite long enough. I can always go back in and fix that later, but we'll worry about that later. Now you can take a little piece of your ribbon and put it around here to give her a belt. I'm going to have to go back in and touch up my paint because I should have let that dry longer. And now we'll go to her hair. Now the way that I do the hair, if you don't have doll hair, which that's not cheap, and this works just as well, and it looks very art dollish. I'm going to use some of my eyelash trim. This is the multicolored one that we got a long time ago, and so just unwinding some of it. I've got this is about 2.5 inches, maybe 3, and you can make it any length that you want it to be. The last one that I did on my sample one, I only made her hair this long, which is about 1 inch less than what I've got here. Now you want to have some parchment on here, and then you're just going to take the end of your thread, start it at the bottom, which is where your parchment is open, because this is where we're going to cut it. Her hair's all going to be this long. So start at the bottom and then just start wrapping. Wrap closely. And it's okay if they do go over top of each other a little bit, but you don't want to do layers and layers on top of each other because we're going to glue this with our hot glue. And so we don't want to have tons of thicknesses layered on top of each other, or the hot glue won't catch it. Gotta get some more here. So I'm just going as close as I can, but not on top. And I'm just going to go till I think it's about enough, which to me is about probably like 1.5 inches in width this way. Because this is going to be her part, so then this is going to hang down both sides of her head. I'm going to maybe do just a few more, because we need hair in the back too. Okay, all right, I'm going to call that enough. Now I'm going to push them together. Again, not trying to make them go over top of each other, just all be right next to each other. I'm going to cut this one again at the bottom so that that piece of hair is as long as the rest. And then I'm going to kind of part this a little bit. And then I'm going to take my hot glue. It doesn't matter what this looks like because this will be the underside of her hair. I take my hot glue and I'm going to go right down the top of that piece of cardboard. That's why we have our parchment there. I'm going to kind of tap it in. And then you need to let that dry. Don't stick your fingers on hot glue. I licked my finger before I did that because it was really dripping down there. But let this dry for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to push it down just a little bit with a piece of parchment paper. And I do believe that the parchment will come off. We'll see. I hope so. But we have to let it dry. So I'm going to set that aside while it's drying. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to show you, I made her a little headband, and all I did was use our fishing line and our small beads, and I just did, you know, a long one and a small one. Just made a pretty pattern, what I thought was a pretty pattern. Now this amount of beads is not going to go all the way around her head. I didn't really want to use that many beads, so I only did enough to go basically across her forehead and in the front, and then I am just going to tie this fishing line into a circle that will sit on top of her head. And you can just eyeball it kind of like this, because you can put it on an angle or whatever, you know, if it's a little bit small. But I can't see my strings. Try this again. If you tie a square knot, it won't come undone. I don't exactly know how to tie a square knot. It's like left over right, right over left, but I can never exactly figure that out. So I'm just going to tie a knot that could be a square knot or could not be a square knot. I'm really not sure. It's a little bit small, so I'm going to pull this way to tighten it up. This is going to sit on top of her hair, so it'll be a little bit bigger than her head. And once her hair is on there, so this is going to fit right on here, and that looks good. It does fit there. Once her hair's on there, her hair will hold it. Okay, and hopefully this is dry enough to take the parchment off. There we go. Now this is the part of her hair, so we're going to come down here and cut her hair. Just like that. And then where we had the part of her hair, we're now going to flip that over. And there's a lot of it sticking out here, so I'm going to make that the back. And then we're going to take this and put it on her head just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, excuse me, take her stand off for a minute. Make sure that I have her seam going that way. This is the front. Of course, you can turn her head around, so that's okay too. But I definitely want to make sure that I'm going across the seam, and so that the seam is at the sides. I'm going to start right about where I think her forehead would be, and just kind of go right down the middle, like that. Then I'm going to find that center piece, her part piece, and just push that on there, just like that. Okay, so now there she is. She's got all this beautiful bohemian hair. And you could make it even longer and tie it into a ponytail or pull it back. You can cut these little bits and give her bangs. I'm going to just kind of leave those down there like that. And then we'll put her little headband on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue right on that center bead. Come right here and just center that right where I think her forehead is. Just like that. And I'm going to let that sit for just a second, and then I will adjust, pulling it back and pulling her hair down or anything because I want that to stick there. I want it to dry a little bit. I'm going to throw just a little bit of pink paint on that arm because that's really bothering me. Although really I'll probably need to go back and touch it up with a little bit of white and then a little bit of pink. But I want to cover up that red. I didn't like that. And now you can also use your beads to make her a really pretty boho necklace with our little sparkly beads that we got a few weeks ago. Okay, and now we've got this pretty dry, so I'm going to kind of comb her hair down. Find my fishing line, kind of pull that back. Okay, so this is her face. Smooth this all down. And you could see, you know, you can see it better if you do the beading all the way around. You can do that if you want to. Just going to kind of pull her hair down a little bit. Make sure I know where the front is. And the hair takes a little while to get it where you want it to be. And then I'm going to take her little headband I really should have glued her onto her stand before we started. Okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to grab my tails of my fishing line so that I can hold on to that. Brush her hair down a little bit more, and then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue right on my knot, and then I'm going to take this and pull it back and pull it down into her hair. Just like that. And you should never touch hot glue. Okay. So there we go. Now, you can trim her hair, you can trim her bangs. I think I'm going to leave her bangs there because I kind of like them. And then she's probably going to get a belt. And what I do with their hands, what I really like to do with their hands is give them flowers to hold. So I have the flowers that we made quite a long time ago in our Build Your Stash and Craft. And so I'm just going to take a couple flowers and I'm going to nip it off a little bit shorter. I'm leaving probably 3/4 of an inch on there. I'm going to fold it like this and then put it right through her hand, just like that. This is going to stick out quite a way, so I'm going to cut off a little bit more of that. Hang on to it when you cut it. And then just fold that around. going to kind of squish her hand on it because she's not holding onto it very tight. And I want it to stay up by her arm. Well, I need a different pair of pliers for this. Okay, there we go. So here she is so far. She's got her flowers and her little skirt, and I think she needs some buttons on her dress. I don't like her head that far tipped forward, so I'm going to tip it back a little bit. And there we go. Now it is a matter of going through and decorating up her dress, painting her stand, if you want to, giving her a face. I don't give my art dolls faces. My oldest daughter thinks it's creepy. And it's because, the reason I don't is because I don't want to give them an expression and have them have to be happy or sad or whatever for the rest of their life. And I can't draw faces. So I never put a face on my art dolls. But this is just, it was a quick way, 42 minutes. But, it's just a quick way to show you how to do it. But there's so much more that you can do. To dress these up. Like I said, give them buttons and give them belts, and if you're good at it, give them a face, paint up their stand and glue it on so that they can actually stand up. And there we go. There's our little bohemian art doll. And here is one that I did with, I'll lay her down. This is one I did just to kind of throw it together to make sure I hit all my parts and pieces. See, her hair's a little shorter. She's got her little headband. She's got a little tie on her neck. And with this one, with the clear ones, I do like to sometimes do like 2 of them so that you can kind of see through, and I like the way that they move around like that, and that's why I don't like to glue the glass right to the hot glue inside, because I think it looks cool when they can just jiggle and everything like that. So there we go. That's how you make an art doll, and I'm sure that you'll take more time with yours. She's just really falling apart, but she'll be okay later. I'll get her all fixed up. So I'll be back in just a few minutes and show you, well, you can't even see them, and show you what it is that we're going to need for next week. Okay, I'm back, and here is our little art doll. The only thing I did was give her some polka dots on her dress, and then use some of the washi tape that we got a while back to just give her a little like button area and belt. So, and I straightened out her hair a little bit, but these are really fun to make, and like I said, you can make them in so many different ways. So this was just like kind of some ideas on how you could make a little art doll and have a good time. One suggestion, if you do want to put a face on it, but you're not so sure how good you are at doing faces, put it on the ball before you put it all together, because that way if you get it all together and think, oh, she's so cute, and you go to put a face on her and you just can't stand the face, then you haven't ruined the whole thing. If you do it before you start and you don't like the face, you can turn it around, leave that face in the back, cover it up if you need to, you know, and do another one on the other side. And if you do it like with black permanent marker, you could try cleaning it off with rubbing alcohol and see if that gets it off so you can start over. But anyways, I do like them faceless. I don't know why, I always have. And so that's just the way that she is. But for next week, what we are going to need is we are going to need from Walmart, we're going to need a roll of thread, which was $1, and a needle threader, which is also $1, because we're also going to get some beading needles for $1 at Walmart, and they have really little holes, so I'm hoping that the needle threaders will help us. So that's 3. Some sequins, and from the Dollar Tree, and a little stuffed animal from the Dollar Tree. Now I will warn you that there will be some harming of the stuffed animals, but if you have stuffing, then you don't need to get a stuffed animal. You can just use the stuffing that you already have. But we're not going to totally ruin him. We'll fix him up again later. So, but anyways, that's what we're going to need for next week. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're spending all 5 of our dollars next week, and we'll need some of our fabric and some fibers and some beads, and that's what we'll need for next week. I do apologize for some of this kind of being out of frame as I was doing it, and it was a little bit close, but there was just no way that I could redo it. So I hope that you got enough out of it that if you want to try one, you're able to do that. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.